The school bully had nefarious intentions towards the school beauty. I intervened heroically, only to be stabbed. In self-defense, I managed to fracture the bully's bone. Afterwards, the bully sued me for intentional assault. The school beauty, furious that I had ruined her relationship with the bully, refused to testify on my behalf. It was then I finally understood. She had been captivated by him for a long time, her resistance nothing more than a half-hearted show. Ultimately, I was sentenced to 10 years in prison for intentional assault. My high school expelled me, while she, as she wished, was accepted into a prestigious university. Upon my release, I returned to the high school for a visit. As fate would have it, I encountered her there, back to deliver a speech as an exemplary alumna. I hid backstage, watching her. But then, my gaze fell upon something beneath the podium, a bomb. My first instinct was to rush onto the stage and save her. But before I could cry out, someone grabbed me from behind, dragging me into a dressing room. It was the bully, now a campus security guard. He strangled me. As my consciousness faded, immense regret washed over me. If I ever got a second chance, I would never interfere again. In my last moments, a deafening explosion ripped through my eardrums. Later, the three of us were reborn, together. This time, she took his hand and voluntarily walked into that alley. After that night, they flaunted their proclaimed love, reveling in their recklessness, squandering their youth. She even wore the lingering bruises from that night as a testament to their love story. Meanwhile, I poured all my energy into studying, completely distancing myself from them. She scoffed at me. "Corbin, no matter how good you get at studying, I'll never like you." I said nothing, simply continued to study, no longer caring about her self-destruction. I would only live for myself. Our love triangle, mine, Axel's, and Celeste's, was known throughout the school. Celeste, the school beauty, was completely taken with Axel, the school bully, while I was merely her devoted admirer, arguably pathetic in my devotion. Celeste had always been the top student in our grade, her name consistently at the top of the rankings, with mine always following right below hers. Even the teachers would comment that if I could someday marry Celeste, we would be a match made in heaven. But amidst the youthful yearning, it was the unconventional, almost domineering romance between the school beauty and the school bully that captured the students' fascination. Axel had transferred from another school. The rumor was he'd gotten into a fight and offended the son of a powerful businessman, leading his family to relocate. Transferring schools hadn't mellowed him. He quickly formed his own clique, always surrounded by a swarm of followers. Celeste and I were childhood friends. Our relationship used to be quite close. In the past, I'd warned Celeste countless times about Axel's deplorable behavior, but she'd just brush it off, saying, "That's just personality. What would a bookworm like you, who only knows how to study, understand?" Later, Axel began a relentless pursuit of Celeste. She maintained a reserved and aloof distance from him, but it was undeniably warmer than how she treated me. Axel's biggest flaw was his lack of patience. Prompted by Celeste's teasing elusiveness, his desires soon became uncontrollable. Yet, to some, this impatience wasn't a flaw but a sign of someone who sought thrill, novelty, and strong personalities. When I was reborn, it was exactly after Axel had sent Celeste a message arranging to meet that evening. I sat behind Celeste, participating in the school's nighttime intensive cram session for the college entrance exam. She secretly pulled out her phone to check his message, a small smile playing on her lips, a blush staining her cheeks. When she noticed me watching her, she glared, whispering angrily, "You better not stop me this time. You don't want to go back to jail for 10 years, do you? Did you think I didn't see you at the lecture? Your pathetic look just disgusted me. I was just too lazy to even acknowledge you." My fists clenched, the pen in my hand nearly snapping. Seeing my reaction, she scoffed. "As long as you don't interfere, I guarantee you can get into Beda too. I'll even give you the exam answers. Of course, I'll be taking Axel with me. Don't think just because you get into Beda you can fantasize about being with me." Her face was full of hopeful anticipation, but she seemed oblivious that the security guard who had stood behind me in the previous life, the one whose gaze had been fixed on her with burning intensity right alongside mine, was the very Axel she yearned for. As soon as class ended, Celeste bolted out the door. In the previous life, I'd simply assumed she was rushing home and hadn't paid it any mind. But as I passed the alley, I'd heard screams and sounds of struggle coming from inside. Turning, I'd seen Axel pinning Celeste against the wall, clearly attempting something illicit. Without thinking, I'd rushed forward and lunged at Axel. Naturally, I wasn't a match for him. Axel had always been an athlete. To get rid of me, he'd even pulled out a fruit knife and threatened me. But seeing Celeste's terrified expression, I'd found some unknown strength and lunged again. In the ensuing chaos, Axel had stabbed me. Stung by the pain, I'd thrust my hands out, pushing him violently away. He fell, his arm hitting a brick, fracturing it. All the while, Celeste had just stood there, watching us, unmoved. I thought she was just frozen in fear, so I'd yelled, "Celeste, run!" But she hadn't run. Instead, she'd rushed to Axel's side, kneeling to check his injury. I stood there, stunned, my heart turning to ash as I watched it unfold. Celeste had glanced at me occasionally, her eyes filled with contempt and resentment. Later, I was sent to the hospital. Before I had even fully recovered, the police took me to the detention center. Axel sued me, claiming in court that he had stabbed me in self-defense and that my actions constituted intentional assault. There were no surveillance cameras in the alley at that time, so obtaining evidence was impossible. He even distorted the facts, twisting my act of heroism into revenge fueled by jealousy of his and Celeste's love. Axel's family wasn't wealthy, but Celeste was. Later, I learned that Axel, desperate to send me to prison, had even made a deal with the Bai family. As long as Axel stayed away from Celeste, their family would arrange for lawyers to win the lawsuit against me. Celeste hadn't known about Axel's deal with her family. She visited me in detention once. I pleaded with her to testify for me in court, but she furiously accused me of shattering her and Axel's love story with my interference, and she refused to testify. Thus, the charge of intentional assault against me was confirmed, despite my insistence that I was acting in self-defense. I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Celeste was transferred to another school by her family and later got into Beta. Axel, without any academic ambition, failed to even get into a vocational college after high school and could only beg his alma mater for a job. He became a security guard there, and 10 years later, he happened to encounter Celeste when she returned to give her speech. Celeste was radiant, her professional attire highlighting her figure, exuding an air of successful detachment. She had invited all her former classmates, including me, but I hadn't shown my face to the class. Instead, I'd hidden backstage in the auditorium, watching Celeste deliver her poised speech. I'd heard she hadn't dated since university. However, due to her family's interference, she hadn't been able to find Axel. On stage, she spoke about her high school crush on Axel, prompting quiet murmurs and teasing from the students below, causing some conservative teachers to frown slightly. Her former classmates felt sorry for her, but I didn't. My gaze had lowered, and it was then I spotted the bomb under the podium. Some elders in my family had been minors. I recognized that type of explosive instantly. My first impulse was to shout out, and my feet moved on their own. But the moment I opened my mouth, a hand clamped over it, and a strong force dragged me towards the dressing room. I struggled desperately, but it was useless. When the dressing room door slammed shut, I was knocked unconscious. When I woke again, a noose was around my neck, my feet resting on a chair. Standing before me was a man in a security uniform, his face weathered, covered in stubble. But I recognized him immediately. Axel. Now I know what a treasure I missed, and how much she truly loved me, he muttered, glaring at me. Corbin, you are the one who destroyed our beautiful love story. He ranted on, then yanked the chair from under my feet. A violent sense of suffocation seized me, accompanied by the sound of my neck bones cracking under the strain. My consciousness blurred. Just as I was dying, a massive explosion rocked the auditorium. A wave of heat, rubble, and debris crashed into the dressing room, tearing my body to pieces. I never imagined these two would blame the stupid consequences of their disastrous romance entirely on me. This time, I would care about nothing. I would only live for myself, making up for the regrets of my past life. I packed my school bag, meticulously organizing my things. I didn't pass the alley on my way to catch the bus, as I had in the previous life. Instead, I hailed a taxi directly from the school entrance. With the window down, feeling the restless spring wind, I passed the alley and could still hear faint sounds of Celeste's mingled pleasure and pain. The day after the training session was the weekend, and Celeste and Axel officially became a couple. They took photos in a hotel bathroom mirror, kissing intimately. Celeste even proudly displayed the bruises on her neck and the marks on her arms. They were fast. Immediately after being reborn, they hooked up, impatient to reclaim their lost youth. In the class group chat, unsupervised by teachers, everyone was buzzing and gossiping. Celeste and Axel's youthful recklessness was a spectacle, a carnival for the onlookers. Seeing the messages, some people even mentioned me, as if I wasn't in the chat, their words subtly mocking my perceived weakness and my past infatuation. A message popped up on my phone. Corbin, you've seen it. We're together now. Even though everything has started over, please don't cling to me anymore. Be careful, or I'll make sure you can never get back on your feet this lifetime. Celeste still thought I was hung up on her and was warning me not to do anything drastic. I replied simply, okay. When I was sentenced to prison in the previous life, I had stopped feeling anything for her. Perhaps, just as she said, we belonged to two different worlds. But this time, who would be on top remained to be seen. From the moment they became a couple, Celeste stopped attending the intensive college entrance exam training sessions. She no longer paid attention in class either, using her textbook to shield her phone, her attention entirely focused on the screen below her desk. Axel sat in the back row, openly chatting on his phone. No teacher dared to manage him or wasted their effort trying to counsel him. The two were completely consumed by each other, skipping class to go to hotels or faking illness to go on trips. Sometimes, during breaks, Celeste would sneak to the back row to share hushed conversations with Axel or hide under his desk for a quick kiss. Her textbooks and notes remained completely blank. The homeroom teacher initially thought Celeste's frequent sick leaves were due to stress, asking concerned questions each time. It wasn't until she caught Celeste playing on her phone during class that she realized the severity of the situation. But calling Celeste to the office several times, using both soft and harsh approaches, proved useless. Celeste's initial impression on the teacher had been excellent, so the teacher continued to believe she was merely experiencing burnout due to pressure and didn't involve her parents, convinced Celeste would improve over time. But the teacher's words couldn't stop Celeste and Axel from dating. During breaks, she no longer organized notes or corrected mistakes. Instead, she mingled with Axel's disreputable friends. She even started getting tattoos and body piercings like ear and lip rings, which she had previously despised. She now embraced willingly. Sometimes, when Axel was in the mood, he would take Celeste to the school's back hill or even the bathroom for activities that shouldn't happen on school grounds. Occasionally, when I went to the bathroom, Axel's group of friends would be loitering outside one of the stalls, and crude sounds would emanate from within. They recognized me and would mock me like it was a joke. Hear that? Know what's going on in there? A loser like you will never experience something like that, right? He's no loser, he's aiming for Tsinghua. Isn't that right, Celeste? He's still fantasizing about getting into Beidao with you. Axel's voice would carry from inside the stall, followed by the hyena-like laughter of his friends, drowning out the other sounds. I had never taken the college entrance exam. It was the regret of my previous life. So, during those 10 years in prison, I had never stopped studying, just for the chance to take the exam upon my release. Celeste was wasting the second chance granted to her by heaven, while I cherished every single second. In my previous life, I spent 10 years behind bars, over 3,600 days living within iron bars, each day indistinguishable from the last. This time, my classmates around me complained about the fatigue of high school senior year. Only I savored it, enjoying every moment of being a student. Most importantly, I possessed the freedom I hadn't had for a decade. My parents ran a business. Our family wasn't exceptionally wealthy, but we were comfortably well off. In my previous life, after my incident, they nearly drained their savings, trying to prove my innocence. When I was finally sentenced, their lives fell into disarray, their business faced major problems, and they soon committed suicide due to insurmountable debt. I learned of this in prison and attempted suicide several times, but my fellow inmates always found and stopped me. They took good care of me and sympathized with my plight. Thankfully, they prevented me. Otherwise, I might have faced additional time for attempted suicide. Their comfort helped me regain the will to live. All of this was directly related to Celeste and Axel, but this time, I wasn't interested in seeking revenge. My parents were still with me in this life, and I only wanted to protect them and fulfill my dream of attending university. Celeste and Axel grew bolder and bolder. They openly declared their love loudly on the sports field or skipped evening study to fool around in the empty dance studio. Even their arguments and spats were dramatic. Their overly dramatic and pained dialogue was like watching a play. Then, Axel would stand alone on the rooftop, gazing into the distance, listening to love songs on his headphones, perhaps lost in some idle drama fantasy. Finally, unable to bear the longing, he'd rush to Celeste's dorm building and shout his confession, leading to a passionate reconciliation. Soon after, the results of the most recent exam were released. With nervous anticipation, I joined the students crowding around the computer screen at the front desk. My name was on the very first row. I was number 1. Celeste had plummeted from number 1 to 50. She was incredibly bright. After all, achieving 50th place with hardly any studying for so long was a testament to her talent. As for Axel, his grades were just as abysmal as before, ranking near the bottom of the grade. The homeroom teacher called me into the office. She sighed while looking at the computer screen filled with grades, then turned to me with a smile. "You did great, Corbin. Now that you're not chasing Celeste, you've put all your energy into studying. And look, you're number 1. To catch up to where I should have been academically, I had been studying day and night recently. But I knew my first place wasn't just because of that. If Celeste wanted to, she could easily reclaim the top spot. I didn't care about rankings. I just wanted to get into university safely and securely." The teacher quickly changed the subject. "I'm very satisfied with your current state, but Celeste's current situation is truly unacceptable. I thought she could handle it, but seeing her like this, I really can't ignore it anymore. You two used to communicate quite frequently. Could you perhaps supervise her studies?" I immediately refused. "Teacher, the college entrance exam is coming up soon. Everyone is preoccupied and under a lot of pressure. We really don't have the energy to manage others." I hadn't considered that," the teacher said, seemingly realizing how inappropriate her request was. She apologized and returned to frowning at the grade list. Time was tight leading up to the college entrance exam, especially in the final year. Besides, Celeste and Axel had already warned me to stay away from them. The school hadn't taken action against them yet because of Celeste's previous consistent top ranking. They still had faith in her abilities and wanted to wait and see. But the report cards were clearly sent to the parents. Celeste's parents, as her childhood friends, had also watched me grow up. But now, when they asked me about Celeste's situation at school, I chose to play dumb. "I don't know, Uncle Bai. I've been focusing entirely on my studies recently and haven't paid attention to anything else outside of that. Maybe you should ask her yourself. You two are childhood friends. Her grades have dropped so sharply. Aren't you worried about this situation?" Mr. Bai's underlying meaning was clear. I supposedly liked Celeste, so why was I so indifferent to such a significant change in her? They had known about my feelings for Celeste all along. But in the previous life, I was severely injured and sentenced to prison for saving their daughter, yet they not only didn't help convince Celeste to testify, they also remained unmoved by my parents' later plight. So this time, I chose indifference as well. "I can't manage her, Uncle Bai. After all, Celeste and I aren't that close anymore. Besides, Celeste is smarter than me. She's probably just relaxed a bit because she was studying too hard. She'll definitely catch up later." I knew these words wouldn't convince Mr. Bai. I simply wanted to make my indifferent attitude clear and draw a line with Celeste, so she wouldn't come looking for trouble again. As expected, soon after, Celeste's parents came to the school themselves to understand the situation. The day Celeste's parents came to school, I was having a study session in class. Loud arguing sounds grew closer, and soon Celeste's parents burst into the classroom, followed by the homeroom teacher. They went straight for Celeste. Her father delivered a sharp slap across her face. "You shameless girl. Did I send you to school just for you to date?" The slap sent Celeste tumbling to the ground. Axel, seeing Celeste get hit, immediately rushed from the back row, helped her up, and roared at her father. "Anything hit me. Don't hit Celeste." "So it was you." Celeste's father was furious, swinging a punch that the homeroom teacher desperately held back. But his mouth didn't stop. "Go look in a mirror. See what kind of trash you are? And you dare covet my daughter? You two break up now. If I ever see you together again, I swear I'll kill you. You're not allowed to talk about him like that." Celeste stood up, placing herself in front of Axel, confronting her own father. "Your grades have dropped so much because of him, and you're still defending him." Her mother chimed in from the side. "You don't need to worry about my grades." Celeste heard her mother's words and actually laughed, saying nonchalantly, "The college entrance exam is no match for me. I guarantee I'll score 730 points." Celeste's confidence stemmed from having been reborn once. If she wanted to, she could help anyone score close to a perfect mark. "Your grades have already dropped. And look at the boyfriend you've chosen. He's just a punk. Do you think he can really give you a future or happiness?" Her father pointed at Axel, his face full of disgust. Celeste and I are truly in love. Axel, perhaps aware of Celeste's future achievements, had even curbed his flirtatious ways this life, saying something like that. Pa, you don't deserve to be my daughter's boyfriend. Her mother shrieked. As if struck by some sudden thought, she looked around and pointed at me, sitting in the front row near the window. Celeste, you and Corbin grew up together. His grades are comparable to yours. You should find a man like him. Yet you insist on finding someone whose future social standing is so different from yours. I will not approve of your relationship. I silently cursed my luck, regretting that I hadn't transferred to a different class the moment I was reborn. Axel and Celeste both turned to look at me instantly, their eyes filled with resentment. The entire class followed Mrs. Bai's finger, turning to look at me. They all looked awkward, some even casting sympathetic glances my way. They had seen my efforts to study hard after giving up on pursuing Celeste and knew the lengths I had gone to distance myself from the two of them. I can score high too. If you don't believe me, we'll see at the college entrance exam. I'll definitely score higher than Corbin. Axel yelled defiantly, his stubbornness almost convincing. The classmates nearby were stifling their laughter, and even the homeroom teacher turned her back, afraid someone would see her smile. The argument continued. That evening's study session was completely ruined. We watched, helpless, as Celeste's family made a scene in the classroom. For a long time, Axel and Celeste refused to back down, swearing to defend their so-called unwavering love. Her parents were so angry they were on the verge of having a heart attack. Only after the homeroom teacher solemnly promised to discipline them severely did they leave the classroom with the teacher. Before leaving, they warned Celeste repeatedly that if she continued seeing Axel, they would cut off her allowance. Of course, they weren't going to be deterred by such a minor setback. Celeste came from a wealthy family and had plenty of her own money. Their relationship continued as usual, now even feeling a sense of camaraderie from having faced adversity together. However, Mrs. Bai's words during the study session had clearly struck a nerve. Soon after, Axel and his group cornered me in the bathroom. You country bumpkin, you're actually noticed by Mrs. Bai? Do you even qualify? I'll score 700 points on the college entrance exam. Let's see you act so arrogant then. He pointed at my nose and cursed for a while. It seemed that wasn't enough to satisfy him. After slapping me a few times, he ordered me to kneel. I naturally refused. Just then, the bell for the end of the break rang. I turned to leave, heading back to class. Did Axel say you could leave? Get down on your knees. A thug reached out, trying to grab my shoulder. I didn't give him the chance. I lifted my leg and kicked him into the urinal. He groaned and flew backward, struggling unsuccessfully to get up several times. The others stared at me in shock. Axel, I don't think you want Celeste to know about the bomb, do you? I don't want anything to do with your mess, so I'll stay away from you. Likewise, you'd better not provoke me. During those 10 years in prison, I didn't just solidify my high school knowledge in the library. I also learned many combat techniques from fellow inmates. Now, enough was enough. I wouldn't endure it any longer. Fine, get lost then. Axel, startled by my aura and actions, looked panicked, but his tone remained arrogant. I left the bathroom, hurrying back to class. The teacher had finished reviewing the test questions, and the remaining half of the class was for self-study. Because of what had just happened, I was still distracted. Although 10 years in prison had gradually numbed and hardened my heart, my first act of physical retaliation left my heart pounding. We had agreed to stay out of each other's way, but they had taken their parents' words and aimed their frustration at me. I wouldn't tolerate being unjustly punished. Celeste and Axel didn't return for that class. Only in the last 10 minutes did the homeroom teacher come in for a brief class meeting. The college entrance exam isn't far off. You've endured over 900 days. It's not much longer. You've all seen what's happened in our class recently. I hope you take it as a warning. The most urgent task now was to keep the other students stable. The homeroom teacher was afraid of copycats. She must have realized Axel and Celeste had skipped class again. Her expression was weary. With these two major problems in the class, who wouldn't get a headache? She could only try her best to contain the situation and prevent the school administration from taking notice. But the next day, during the big break, we were suddenly told to gather on the sports field for a school assembly. The matter had, after all, reached the school administration. The dean stood on the stage, sternly emphasizing the dangers of early relationships. Then he motioned to the side. Celeste and Axel walked onto the stage with their heads held high, each holding a written reflection. But what they said was far from a reflection. Thank you everyone for witnessing me and Axel getting together. We will definitely overcome all obstacles and prove our love to those who try to hinder us. It was a clever maneuver. After the school administration had checked their written reflections, they had secretly swapped them out. Before they could say much more, the dean ushered them off the stage. The sports field erupted in a clamor. Applause and catcalls were deafening. Only a few top students, including myself, remained unmoved, looking at our textbooks and notes, as if detached from the spectacle. I'm getting into Tsinghua or Beida. Everyone, be my witness. Let these people who ruined our youth see how incompetent they are. Axel shouted loudly before the microphone was snatched away, responding to the cheers from below. Celeste also wrapped her arms around Axel and kissed him on the cheek. The cheers from below grew louder. At that moment, I looked up and saw the large tattoos on Celeste's arm. Her hair dyed blood red. I let out a small, quiet laugh and buried my head back in my studies. In the end, Celeste and Axel were not expelled. After all, the college entrance exam was approaching, and Celeste's previous grades were very impressive. The matter was ultimately resolved with a warning and other disciplinary actions, falling short of expulsion. Another mock exam concluded, and I remained firmly in first place. Celeste had now dropped to beyond the 200th mark. Our school only had about 300 students in total for that grade. Being at the top twice established my reputation. The classmates who used to gather around Celeste for help with questions now gravitated towards me. I didn't refuse them. Explaining the problems to them also helped solidify my own understanding. Celeste's mocking voice chimed in inappropriately. That perennial runner-up, just because he got first twice, he's already getting arrogant. I just haven't put in the effort. Otherwise, he wouldn't stand a chance. Do you really think he's some great figure? What's the point of asking him for questions? Don't end up failing the exam along with him. Celeste, could you help me look at this problem? The class president, I don't know where he appeared from, held a problem sheet up to Celeste's face. Celeste's complexion visibly paled. Problem-solving ability is a habit. After 10 years without practicing, no matter how smart she was, she couldn't possibly answer every question. Don't bother with tricky problems like this. They won't be on the college entrance exam, Celeste said, finding an excuse, and walked towards the back row. When she looked back at me, her gaze was full of hostility. Celeste's retaliation came quickly. The weekend was approaching. I went home after school the next day, then returned in the evening for a special training session. Passing the familiar alley entrance, a few figures suddenly darted out and dragged me inside. Without a word, they started punching and kicking me. Thankfully, I had gained combat experience in prison and wasn't just a punching bag. However, I couldn't overcome their combined attack and was quickly overpowered, my hands and feet restrained. Axel's voice came from the deepest part of the alley, dripping with malice. You dared to embarrass my Celeste publicly. Do you really think getting first place makes you special? He walked forward and swung a punch directly into my stomach. I didn't hold back either, kicking him directly in the thigh. The pain made him scream. Celeste stood by the entire time, watching coolly. Seeing her boyfriend injured, she instantly felt protective and indignant on his behalf. Corbin, didn't I warn you not to mess with us? We just wanted to teach you a lesson, and you dared to strike him so hard. Go get him. Make him learn his lesson. The thugs rushed forward to avenge Axel. I didn't just sit there. I fought back with all my might. Occasionally, a thug would be kicked in a vulnerable spot, yelling in pain and dropping out of the circle. Have you forgotten what dying feels like? Shall I remind you? Axel, having recovered somewhat, walked forward and grabbed my neck. His hand tightened, and I instantly felt a sense of suffocation. I knew he was capable of killing me. In the previous life, before his act of public revenge, he had killed me first out of spite. There was no way I would let him beat me freely. My hatred for him was already deep-seated and mutual. This life, we were supposed to leave each other alone, yet he constantly provoked me. Enduring the intense dizziness, I found my angle and kicked Axel in a vulnerable spot on his leg again. A crisp crack sound echoed, followed immediately by Axel's pig-like scream. What's going on? A voice suddenly called out from the alley entrance. A few people holding flashlights rushed in. Everyone present was startled. Soon, the people with flashlights drew closer. They were the school security guards. The thugs holding me also unconsciously released their grip. Mustering all my strength, I quickly bolted behind the security guards and shouted, "They're trying to kill me. Please, help me call the police. My homeroom teacher is Mr. Davison." The security guards hadn't just arrived because they heard our screams. Surveillance cameras had been installed near that alley entrance early on. The installation had happened after Celeste and Axel's reflection incident. The school, fearing copycats, had increased the number of surveillance cameras within the school. Even all hidden spots near the school entrance were equipped with cameras. The security guards must have detected the commotion in the alley and rushed over to handle it. The security guards controlled the scene, preventing anyone from leaving. Before the police arrived, one of the thugs tried to make a break for it when a security guard wasn't looking. The alert guard hit him hard with his baton, and he immediately fell to the ground, howling in pain. The thug spent 2 nights in juvenile detention. I gave my statement, had my injuries examined, and then went home. My parents saw my state and rushed to worry about me. Seeing their distressed faces, my eyes felt a little sore. I comforted them. "I'm fine, Mom and Dad. The teacher wants you to come to school tomorrow to handle this matter, but it's definitely not your son's fault." Opening day Monday, none of us involved parties attended the flag-raising ceremony. My parents and Celeste's parents were present, looking at each other awkwardly, seemingly not having anticipated that things would escalate to such a tense situation. The police brought Celeste and the thugs to the school. Axel, his leg in a cast, hobbled in on crutches. The police mentioned that none of the thugs were yet 18, which made prosecution difficult. Even if they were to be punished, they had already spent 2 days in custody. The main issue was how the school would handle it. The nature of this incident is utterly deplorable. The dean projected the surveillance footage for everyone to see and said angrily, "Corbin is our school's #1 student. For him to be treated like this could significantly impact his college entrance exam. Therefore, I recommend, according to school regulations, expulsion where necessary and compensation where due." Celeste and the thugs hadn't known about the hidden camera, so they had acted without restraint. Now, realizing they were on the verge of expulsion, they began to panic. "No, you can't expel me. I'm going to be the top scorer in the country. The whole school will be proud of me then." Celeste still blabbered confidently, but her current grades provided no basis for such claims. Celeste's mother also pleaded with me at this point. "Corbin, I watched you grow up. Please, for my sake, ask the dean to be lenient. Auntie is begging you just this once. Celeste absolutely cannot be expelled. Corbin, you two are childhood friends." This time, Celeste was indeed wrong. I, as her father, apologized to you on her behalf. Celeste's father, seeing his wife realize that the only person who could save their daughter was me, almost got down on his knees. But Axel's parents' attitude was completely different. They pointed at me and started hurling insults. "You little punk, don't go too far. Sign that guarantee right now. Or believe me, I'll make sure your family can't survive in this town. Pa, if you're going down, don't drag my daughter with you." Seeing the situation becoming more and more chaotic, I shouted to stop the noise and address the dean. "Expulsion isn't necessary. You can decide on other disciplinary actions, but at the very least, they need to learn a lesson." Letting the matter rest was partly to avoid further trouble, as I needed to focus on the college entrance exam, and if things got too messy, I couldn't guarantee Axel wouldn't seek revenge. Moreover, my revenge wasn't going to end so easily. This wasn't enough. What Axel's father said about my family deeply unsettled me. My family wasn't one he could just push around. We were in the upper middle class. We had some influence. His attempt to intimidate me with a tough guy act wouldn't work. Give Celeste a major demerit and put her on probation. As for Axel, I hope he can reflect at home. I don't want him affecting my studies. Separating them physically, I thought, would be the best punishment for people so deeply in love. Axel clenched his fists, daring to lunge at me even in front of the police. But he was immediately stopped by the officers. The dean, very mindful of my feelings, immediately announced the disciplinary results. Celeste received a major demerit and was put on school probation. Axel wasn't expelled, but was required to reflect at home until the college entrance exam. Effectively, Axel graduated that day. As I saw my parents off, they sighed. Why did Celeste suddenly turn out like this? They comforted me for a while and told me to come home if things weren't going well at school. Celeste hadn't suddenly changed like this. From the moment she met Axel, she had slowly become restless. If they hadn't been kept apart, and if Axel hadn't made that deal with her parents and disappeared, Celeste would have spiraled down much earlier. Now, only Celeste's lonely figure remained at school. In the past, at this time, I would have been by her side, doing everything I could to make her happy. Before Axel appeared, everyone, including myself, thought Celeste and I were the perfect match. We went to school and came home together, discussed problems together, and promised to attend the same university. But her cruel decisiveness in casting me aside later extinguished all hope. The second mock exam officially began. The questions this time were unprecedentedly difficult. I understood the test designer's intent to curb our restless mindsets. After the exam, I didn't see Celeste return to the classroom. Celeste had skipped school. The exam coincided with the weekend. When I returned home, my parents told me that Celeste's parents were frantically searching for her. She hadn't come home. She must have gone to find Axel again. Meanwhile, Axel had also run away from home. Axel's parents hadn't disciplined him much to begin with. Now that he was back home, he was completely out of control. Celeste's parents heard I was home and immediately came over to ask if I knew where Celeste and Axel might go. Uncle and Auntie, I really don't know. When they started dating, they warned me to stay away from them. In the previous life, they used to joke with my parents about becoming in-laws. But when I was truly put on trial, their actions broke my heart. The beginning of all this was because of the two of them. If I didn't have the memories of my past life, I might have genuinely been moved by their apparent concern for their daughter. Now I knew they were only acting like this because they needed something from me. In the previous life, they had simply been interested in my family's wealth and my academic achievements. After I was jailed, they severed all ties with my parents and moved to a place close to Beda. They stood by and watched my parents fall into ruin. This time, I would also watch them. I would let them see firsthand how their daughter would rot away, little by little, without my intervention. Celeste's parents left my home without getting anything. Desperate, they chose to call the police. The police acted quickly and found that Celeste and Axel had flown south on the day the second mock exam started. Celeste's parents kept insisting their daughter was being coerced. The police, having handled the case where Axel harassed me, didn't believe Celeste's parents at all. But they couldn't resist the desperate pleas of Celeste's parents and eventually contacted the local police to find Celeste and Axel. When Celeste saw the police, she said she was there voluntarily and wouldn't go back until she had her fun. Since it was Celeste's subjective will, the police couldn't force her to return. Their social media feeds were full of photos flaunting their freedom, underneath which were comments from classmates, a mix of genuine well wishes and sarcastic jabs disguised as support. In reality, no one was truly wishing them well. They were just using the opportunity to be snarky. Celeste, however, truly believed she was garnering admiration and responded to various comments with thanks. A week later, they returned. Celeste went straight back to school, completely disregarding whether her parents were worried or upset. At home, by now, only a month remained until the college entrance exam. During a break, she found me and handed me a notebook. Don't say I didn't help you out. Finish this, and we'll compare answers. Even she, after 10 years, couldn't remember everything perfectly. She wasn't certain her recalled answers were accurate, so she came to me. As long as we compare answers, we can get into any university we want. Sorry, you should find someone else. I replied calmly, continuing to organize my mistake notebook. Corbin, don't play hard to get. Celeste certainly wouldn't dare show these questions to anyone else. Axel's grades were ridiculously bad, so the only person reliable enough not to leak the potential exam questions, and also someone who could potentially help her, was me. Only another reborn person like me could truly assist her. Class is about to start. You haven't been to school in a while. You should probably focus on catching up. Celeste glared at me hatefully, the piercing in her eyebrow shifting as she furrowed her brow. The class bell rang. Before returning to her seat, she didn't forget to threaten me. You just wait. So over the next few days, my desk would occasionally feature sets of exam papers that hadn't been assigned. I was the type who would do any problem I came across, but that didn't mean I wouldn't check the problems beforehand. I asked the class representative if these were assigned homework, and upon receiving a negative answer, I stood up and threw the papers directly into the trash can. During this final stretch before the college entrance exam, my only companions were my mistake notebook and the customized study plan the school had prepared for me. Seeing that I refused to cooperate, Celeste began to specifically target and harass me. Sometimes, the thugs Celeste instigated would lock me in the bathroom, making it impossible to get out. Or in the morning, while I was washing my face, my head would be suddenly pushed into the water basin, and I wouldn't be released until I was close to blacking out from choking. By the time I looked up, they had already run away. This severely affected my studies. When I returned to the dorm after evening study, I would find my bed stripped bare. I had to stay up late studying alone on the bare wooden bed frame. sleeping on a pile of my summer clothes when I was too tired to continue. I reported this to the teacher, who checked the surveillance footage and caught a few of the thugs. But these incidents continued to happen. Unable to stand the harassment any longer, I decided to apply for off-campus housing for the final period. During lunch break, as I packed my things to leave the dorm, I happened to see Axel sneaking out of the girls' dorm across the hall. He didn't see me. He hugged the wall, crept towards the school fence, and climbed over it to leave. The next day, I heard that Celeste and Axel were caught in the girls' dorm doing something inappropriate by the school administrators during lunch break. It was close to lunchtime, and many people rushing didn't go to the cafeteria. Therefore, many saw Celeste and Axel being escorted out of the dorm by security guards. Disheveled, I had actually been the one to inform the school administration. All I had to say was that I saw Axel sneaking into the school. They were constantly interfering with my studies, and I was afraid they would still harass me even if I applied for off-campus housing. It was better to solve the problem once and for all. This time, the school administration was furious and directly expelled Axel. Celeste was not expelled, but was also forbidden to return to school. To ensure their daughter could study peacefully, Celeste's parents confiscated her phone and bank card and locked her in the house, not allowing her to go out. But within a few days, Celeste, using her ID card and a stash of cash she had hidden, broke a window and escaped from the villa. No one knew where she had gone. The homeroom teacher told us that if we found any trace of Celeste on social media, or if she contacted us, we should report it immediately. We all knew, deep down, that Celeste must have gone to pursue her love story with Axel again. Celeste's parents hired private detectives and searched everywhere, but they couldn't find any trace of them. However, during this time, the group of thugs who used to follow Axel all took leave from school. This change was a good thing for me. My surroundings suddenly became much quieter. Who knew that later, when I went to check out the college entrance exam venues, I would see them again. I intended to pretend I didn't see them, but they were heading straight for me. A group of them struggled to restrain my hands and feet and dragged me to a derelict, unfinished building. One of the thugs handed me a phone and a video. Call was in progress. On the screen, Celeste and Axel were leaning against each other, surrounded by cigarette butts, empty bottles, and other unsavory items. Either you do the college entrance exam paper and we compare answers, or you stay locked up here until the exam is over. I know you value this exam more than your life, so make your choice. The thug handed me a few sheets of paper and a pen. I glanced at them coldly, then picked up the pen and began to write. These were the college entrance exam papers I had yearned for in my previous life. That afternoon, I completed all the papers. Besides the listening comprehension, I even wrote the essay. Nice essay. I'll use it for my boyfriend later. You can write a new one yourself. Celeste on the other end of the video call leaned into Axel's face as if claiming credit, and Axel gave her an affectionate kiss. Can I go now? I stood up, stretched, and turned to walk out. And I thought you were so noble. You were so good at fighting before. I didn't expect you'd cave so easily for the exam papers. What was the point of acting all righteous before? Listening to their dismissive words, my fists clenched, but I walked out of the room calmly. On the way back, I wasn't angry about what had just happened. Instead, my heart was filled with a strange exhilaration. Celeste and Axel, this time, you have truly destroyed yourselves. If they had bothered to study or even paid a little attention in class, they would have realized the differences between this life and the last. The butterfly effect was terrifying. Our changes had altered this world as well. This time, we weren't using regional papers at all, but national papers, and the scope of the exam had also been adjusted. So during this time, I had been catching up on the knowledge points that were different from the previous life, while also enjoying watching Celeste's slow self-destruction. They were probably memorizing those papers right now, fantasizing about making a splash and turning things around, maybe even becoming the top scorer in the country. The reason those thugs were helping them must have been because Celeste had manipulated them. They were probably treating those papers as sacred texts. Soon the college entrance exam began. I saw them again at school. They smirked at me provocatively, then followed the crowd into the bus. We had different exam venues. The school would send us off on the first day, taking us by bus. My home was closer to the exam venue, so I would have my parents take me for the following days. As I entered the examination hall and saw Chinese, National Paper 1, written on the blackboard, a cold smile played on my lips. The 4 days of the college entrance exam flew by. My high school life was over. A new stage of life was beginning. I didn't indulge myself like others did. I signed up for driving lessons and spent my days helping my parents with the family business. Graduation ceremony arrived quickly, while classmates joked about being disadvantaged by taking the 4-day national paper compared to places that only had a 2-day regional paper, saying how envious they were. A loud roar came from the auditorium entrance. Corbin, get out here. Corbin. Celeste was searching everywhere for me, Axel and the others trailing behind her. Corbin, you knew it was different all along, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me? Why? They quickly found me, surrounding me. Celeste grabbed my collar, screaming like a wild animal. I replied calmly, you were the one who told me not to ruin your fun and to stay away from you. I pushed Celeste away and calmly walked out of the circle. Corbin, you need to explain yourself. Axel lunged at me, raising his hand to hit me. I looked at his deranged face and laughed. What? Planning to hang me like in the previous life? Or maybe take revenge on society again and bomb everyone here? Shut up. Axel instinctively tried to cover my mouth, but I easily evaded him. What? That explosion was you? Celeste gasped, covering her mouth, speechless for a long time. I didn't hold back, turning to mock her. You didn't think that explosion was an accident, did you? Oh, right. You don't know how he was reborn. Did you not recognize the security guard who stood behind me? He made those bombs to take revenge on society. And the first person he wanted revenge on was you. It's just that. I discovered it, and I became the first person he killed. You're truly foolish to fall in love with someone who personally killed you. You murderer. It was you, how dare you do that? Celeste slapped Axel across the face. Axel froze, stunned. After a moment, he regained his senses and hurriedly explained. It wasn't like that. I didn't want to hurt you. I just loved you too much and wanted to die with you. Don't touch me, you disgusting thing. You're a terrorist. So you were the one who ruined my life, and I actually thought that was a chance given to me by heaven. All of this was caused by you. Celeste recoiled from Axel's touch. She looked up at me and lunged forward, trying to hide behind me. I grabbed one of the thugs nearby and simply walked out of the circle. The commotion here finally attracted the attention of the school administration. Who let you in? The dean shouted, rushing towards us, followed by a large group of security guards. Soon, all of them were pushed and escorted out of the school gate by the security guards. Corbin, you just wait. I'll kill you sooner or later. Axel shouted from a distance before disappearing from sight. He must have been furious that I exposed his secret, but he had plenty of other things to deal with. Celeste was pregnant. Celeste returned home in a daze. Her parents, afraid she might be injured, immediately took her to the hospital for a checkup. The results showed Celeste was 2 months pregnant. Knowing this, Celeste's parents were furious and immediately confronted Axel's family, demanding an explanation. When Axel found out, instead of panicking, he was overjoyed and immediately proposed to Celeste's parents. In his fury, Celeste's father ordered his bodyguards to give Axel a severe beating. In the end, both sides settled. Celeste's father took Celeste to get an abortion, and Axel didn't have to compensate Celeste's father because he had been beaten. This time, Axel didn't choose to sue Celeste's father. It seemed he had enough self-awareness to know he couldn't win against the Bai family. Celeste was heartbroken and disillusioned. She didn't resist her father's demand that she get an abortion. This life, she had used her future to completely see Axel for the kind of person he was. I saw her again later, on the day of my university acceptance banquet. My parents had booked the hotel ballroom and were throwing a lavish celebration for me. My college entrance exam score was 703, giving me my pick of top universities nationwide. Celeste, however, hadn't even passed the minimum score for undergraduate admission. When Celeste's parents brought her into the ballroom, they deliberately came over to chat with me for a while, highlighting their relationship with my family. After a few drinks, Celeste's mother specifically brought Celeste to me. Corbin, congratulations. So young and accomplished, accepted into a prestigious university. Not like our girl here. How about this? School hasn't started yet. Why don't you tutor our Celeste? We're planning for her to repeat a year. Sorry, Auntie, I'm helping with the family business right now and really don't have the time, I replied, giving Mrs. by no quarter. Oh, you child, you two are childhood friends. I know you've had some disagreements recently, but how about this? You two chat properly. You grew up together. What is there you can't talk out? Mrs. Bai smiled and walked away. Celeste lowered her head, looking dejected, thinking about something. When my gaze fell on her, she gave a bitter smile and reached out her hand to me. Corbin, I was wrong. I regret so much why I didn't listen to you in the previous life. For the sake of us growing up together, please, save me one more time. Her expression was sincere, but I no longer felt any pity for her. Sorry, I really don't have time. Why? Didn't you like me the most? I'm even giving you a chance to get close to me. Why won't you agree? She stood up, pointing at me with a distorted face. Who are you putting on airs for? My asking for your help is me giving you face. Don't be ungrateful. If I hadn't stopped trying, could you even be the top student in the school? It's just the top spot in the school. If I had studied properly, I would definitely be the provincial top scorer. Only lowlifes like you would care about being number one in the school. Just as low as your parents who don't even have assets over 100 million. The entire ballroom fell silent for a moment. Then, guests began whispering among themselves, occasionally glancing at Celeste with disdain. Celeste's parents quickly rushed over to scold Celeste, then apologized to my parents and shamefully led Celeste away with their heads bowed. The guests, however, continued to talk about the incident. From Celeste falling for a punk and neglecting her studies for him, to getting pregnant and having an abortion. Their embellished words were full of mockery. Corbin, look at this. A friend from high school came over, mysteriously showing me a video he had secretly recorded. It was the clip of Celeste's furious rant just moments ago. I burst out laughing right there and agreed to his request to post the video in the class group chat and on social media. The chat immediately flooded with mocking and laughing emojis. Celeste's parents ultimately didn't ask me to tutor their daughter again. After their daughter said such things, they had no face left to come and beg me for help. Later, I heard that Celeste's parents applied for her to repeat a year, but found that because of the severity of the incidents she had caused, no school was willing to accept her. As a last resort, she had to attend a private vocational college. Celeste's parents hoped she would study hard there, get a bachelor's degree through a transfer program, and then work hard to get into graduate school at Betrayal. But having tasted the thrill of rebellion and wild living, how could she settle down and study? Soon, she was once again lost in a cycle of clubs and parties, unable to pull herself out. The once-in-a-lifetime chance to transfer to a bachelor's program was also squandered. Axel failed his college entrance exam and became a security guard again. He originally wanted to find connections at the school again, just like in the previous life, to get a security job, but the school understandably avoided him like the plague. Desperate, he had to become a security guard in an old residential community. The people in the community were not like those at school. The community was a mixed bag, and it was difficult to manage. Soon, Axel got into a conflict with a resident, injured them, and was fired on the spot. Later, I was admitted to graduate school without taking an exam. During breaks, I took time to participate in the family business. After learning I was going to graduate school, Celeste, who was unemployed and at home, contacted me. From time to time, she invited me to a cafe, reminiscing about the past and how good our relationship was before Axel appeared. At the end of the conversation, she said she liked me and wanted to give me a chance to pursue her again. Celeste, we're not children anymore. You should understand the gap between us now. This sentence struck a nerve, and she cursed at me violently. Gap? Your little business dares to talk about a gap with me? Do you know that with just a flick of my family's finger, your family could go bankrupt? I looked at her like she was a joke. Have you not left the house for several years? Go back and read some business news. I couldn't be bothered to listen to her nonsense anymore. I paid the bill and left. Of course, I only paid for my own drink. In my previous life, during the 10 years I spent in prison, business people were constantly being admitted. Even in prison, they would occasionally help make decisions and manage their family businesses. I learned a lot from talking to them and remembered the major events that would happen in the business world over the next decade. I met with my former prison acquaintances as their colleague, helping them relay messages and quickly gained their trust. Through their connections, our family secured many business collaborations. Our family business soared, and our net worth long surpassed the Bai families by over a dozen times. The small business she thought she could easily destroy with a casual move had now grown into a business empire they could only dream of reaching. I wasn't going to let her insult me for free, so I took some measures to suppress the Bai family's business. Soon, their family went completely bankrupt due to failed competition. Later, one day, I saw the news online. There was another explosion at our school. A man ran into the school auditorium and detonated a bomb, dying instantly. It was then I remembered a confusing message I had received the day before. Corbin, I will be reborn again. When that happens, I will make your life a living hell. This person must have been Axel. I found it utterly absurd. Even if he was reborn, I wouldn't encounter him again. Our family business grew larger and larger. I often had to attend various events with clients. One day, while dining at a restaurant, among the line of servers bringing out dishes, I saw Celeste. I pretended not to see her and continued chatting with my client. Unexpectedly, Celeste pulled out a dagger and lunged directly at me. Reacting quickly, I used a hold to pin her onto the table. "Corbin, you animal. I wish I could hack you to pieces." Celeste struggled wildly until the police arrived and took her away. Later, she was sentenced to prison for attempted murder. Before the trial, Celeste's parents knelt outside our company entrance, begging me to issue a letter of understanding and to plead for Celeste in court. But their actions in my previous life were still vivid, and I was certainly not one to repay evil with kindness. Later, they returned to their hometown and lived in poverty. Whenever I had free time, I would take my parents on trips, making up for the 10 years of filial duty I couldn't perform in my previous life. I took them to experience new things young people enjoyed. Our future was filled only with boundless happiness. Occasionally, when I look back on my youth, the days of pursuing Celeste are long blurred. Only those steady days of studying remain vivid in my memory. I can still almost smell the fresh scent of textbooks from back then.